Okay, welcome to another episode of Take Up Space. Today I'm really excited because we have Sapna Radhakrishnan in the studio, and the topic of the day is parenting, which is one that we always have kind of in subtext throughout our episodes if you've been listening, but today we're going to highlight it and put the focus on it. As a therapist, I obviously see a lot of clients who primarily come in because of how parenting has shaped who they are. It's left imprints of just like words and patterns and expectations. We know that these early experiences are really pivotal in who we become. So today we have Sapna here who's going to help kind of break it all down for us. And to introduce her, she's a parenting success coach, NLP practitioner, author of a book called Yelling to Zenning, which I love the name, by the way. She helps parents who feel stuck in this like power and stress go to a place of connection with their children and calmness in their approach. And she's also been featured in Parents Magazine, Forbes, Newsweek, ABC Dallas. So amazing, by the way. And I've seen some of your stuff, and I thought that you do a really great job of pushing this like narrative of curiosity. It's something we do in therapy for individuals as well. So you're talking about it as parents, which I love that. And I have a lot of friends that are new parents or going to be parents, and this topic just couldn't be more important. So I'll kick us off. And I think where I wanted to go first was kind of representing the South Asian community in this conversation. Some types of behaviors after a period of time have been very normalized, like in parenting, right? So yelling is one of them. And sometimes it could go into like slapping or beating even. I've heard a lot of people say like, that's so normal and that was so common, or dismiss it to like it wasn't a big deal and that's just how it happens and that's how it happened for them. And then in therapy, we have a lot of work to do around deconstructing the impact that left on a nervous system level, on a fear level, all of those things. So just right off the bat, I guess, what do you feel about those traditional approaches, and what would you say about them to parents, to this audience, and how to shift from a place of power to the place of connection?
Thank you for having me, sir.
Yeah.
That's first, let me just acknowledge. Thank you so much and I'm so proud of you for doing this for the community. And coming back to the connection part, right? Before connection, we all have been raised with this notion that we need to fix, control, and raise the child in some way. That's what we bring into the parenting. And when we bring that into the parenting, then it's all about the child. What does that mean? We are not looking into our reactions. We are looking at the child. Our eyes, our emotions are all focused on the child. Fix the child, contort the child, somehow manage them to make them into a certain way. And that is somehow connected to how we are seen as a parent. However the child behaves, it becomes a reflection of our parenting. Then, so all our focus is on the child now.
Yeah.
Because somehow your child becomes
An extension
of you. That's when all this mishap happens, all the dysfunction happens, because we're trying to fix the child instead of connecting with the child, understanding the child, knowing the child. We need to change that.
Yeah, so you're kind of saying that the element of whether it's yelling or violence or fixing, it's coming from a place of control and fix, right? But you're saying it's not just for the outcome of the child, but it's attached to the ego of the parent. So I think what I hear a lot is like, sometimes it feels like a failure for a parent if a child doesn't do XYZ, behave in a certain way, do a certain thing. So what you're speaking to is like, because it impacts the parent's sense of self, that's where the fixing and controlling is like motivated by. Yeah.
How many times have you seen a child having a tantrum or a meltdown and thought, where is the parent? Isn't the parent not doing anything about it? Haven't they taught them? Even when you see another grown up, that person hasn't been taught something right, or they haven't been raised right. Very unconsciously, we think in those terms. And it's so embedded in us, right? Oh, what are they going to think? What is the other person going to think? Because of that, now it becomes so important for the parent to not only the child behaves a certain way because they're representing them, their teachings, it becomes personal. It becomes personal, very personal. So anything the child does,
it's like I'm getting graded on how this person behaves, which, to your point, like completely disconnects from thinking about the child as the child and the self of the parent as separate.
Yes.
Which I think speaks to a lot of like in the South Asian community, you see these words are thrown around of like difficulty setting boundaries or enmeshment or things like that. But I think what you're pointing to is important, that that extension of self is a common thread. So I guess I'm curious for you is like, how do you help a parent shift from that place to a place where they can actually see their child for who they are?
Yes, it starts with awareness. First, you need to be aware that something is off here, something is not going right. It's not serving both the child and me. And once the parent becomes aware, now starts the journey of unraveling this journey of knowing who you are and where you learned all these dysfunctional patterns, if I should say, all the ways of thinking, all the ways of behaving, all the ways of behaving. We need to unwrap it like an onion, peel those and when we do that, not only are we serving us, we're serving the child in front of you, the next generation. They're going to pick up on it.
Yeah.
And it's not about perfection. We think
so true. Yeah.
when we start doing this, we have to be perfect. Now we have to learn and we have to become better. No, it's about the awareness. And it starts with, I don't know. Let me learn. That's the hard part for the parents or anybody to get to. Let me figure that humility and not knowing, staying in that not knowing. It's so hard. Imagine if somebody asks you something and you don't know. It's a very vulnerable spot and nobody wants to be there. But once you go into this path, it's fun sort of, because you start understanding, oh wow, I've been living in this false ways of living, and then you start peeling and you start realizing the freedom you get with it. Then it starts become, I wouldn't say fun all the way, but there are days when you
it can be fun.
It can be fun,
maybe also very hard, because it reminds me of unpacking just like as an individual my own set of beliefs, biases, or ways I show up, which is, there's a freedom in it, like you said, but it also is really hard work. It doesn't come naturally, and there's a reason it's so vulnerable and it requires so much of that. I think it's so important to stress that everyone has an opinion on parenting, and there is no such thing as perfection, right? Like you said, even in the research like that we're taught in our programs is that as long as you're attuned 1/3 of the time, we call that like good enough, which just means that, you're likely going to raise a child who has the resilience skills and who has the regulation skills and confidence and healthy sense of self, which is so like liberating to hear. It's 1/3 of the time. And not to say that that's the right number, but it's just the concept of if you're doing the best you can and showing up, that is enough.
Yes. And we all have this innate resilience in us. You've seen a small baby, never gives up. You put them down, they stand back up. They're curious beings. They're pulling stuff off of the wall. They're experimental. You can't tell a child, don't do that, like a small baby. It's so innate. But over time, when you keep telling them, don't do that, don't pick up that. I'm not saying in terms of the safety aspect. I'm speaking in terms of the curiosity, the innate resilience a child has. When we nurture that, then it becomes inevitable, right? Then we're not afraid of failure anymore. Right. But then we try to tame that down because we think we are trying to protect them. That's where we need to understand where are we coming from? Are we coming from the egoic aspect of trying to control the child, make them behave a certain way? Or are we coming from our true sense where we are nurturing that curiosity, nurturing that resilience? And that takes a lot on the parent to look at their own stuff.
Absolutely. So you see clients, right? Coaching right now. So I wonder if there's some examples you can give us of this like egoic fear-based approach versus the connection approach. Like what have you seen in your work or in your personal life, as much as you could share, that sheds the light on both of those, or even just like the journey of switching from one place to the other?
Yeah. Usually when clients come to me, they are coming with such fear that either the child is going to turn out like them, which really breaks my heart, or they're trying to protect the child from a certain feeling that they felt, and they don't want the child to feel that. So they do everything possible for the child to not feel that feeling. For example, let me say, a client comes and tells me, my child doesn't have friends because they are so scared of the feeling of loneliness. Oh, my child is going to feel lonely because I didn't have any friends. And they think their child cannot handle loneliness. They try
Gotcha.
to protect them, meaning they become overbearing. They try to make friends for them,
Yeah.
trying to get them into birthday parties they're not invited to.
Wow.
Things like those, coming from all good
Yeah.
heart. They
Yeah.
want the best
It's
for their
coming from
child.
fear, but it's a fear of like, I don't want you to experience the
What
pain
I've
that I experienced.
experienced.
And also a projection, a little bit of like, if I couldn't tolerate it and it did this to me, it's going to do the same thing to
Yes.
you. Yeah.
What if we switch that
Mm-hmm.
and say that we are resilient beings? Loneliness, sadness, rejection, these are part of being human, being a
Yeah.
part of human experience. There's nothing
Yeah.
to fear. And we teach children, not only we learn, we also teach them that I can sit with it. These are all feelings. These are all passing. They're like waves, very momentary. There's
Yeah.
nothing to fear. Just like joy, sadness is a part of living. When we know that and we start understanding that, there's no fear then we are not scared. That is what I hope for the parents. Then they gently switch towards that, and when they learn these tips and techniques, awareness and mindfulness and the tools that come with it, they understand this is very irrational fear that I've been having.
Yeah. So they really have to step into their own, like, their own discomfort before they can really translate that into parenting. Right?
And it requires some help, right? If somebody came and told me to lift a 20-pound weight when I've never gone to the gym, it's going to be hard for me.
Absolutely.
A trainer is really helpful. He would start slow. He would teach me the techniques, the tools. It's the same way. And we can't go into the gym thinking, oh, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Everybody starts somewhere. It's the same thing with parenting. I think nowadays parents are becoming a little bit more open. They want to learn. They want to break patterns. They want to do something new for their children. And that's very refreshing to see.
Absolutely. So I guess as a coach, when you're giving them tools and techniques up front, let's say they're in a moment, like one thing I hear a lot is like parents don't know what to do with young kids. So they just give them like a smartphone or like a laptop and they're just like, go be busy. Or the reverse of like those kids want to be on their phone so much that they will either just like use yelling as an approach to get them to stop or just give in completely. So there's no like in between recipe for them to connect or to resolve. So what advice, what tips would you give to a parent in the moment of something like that?
Yeah, it's becoming a babysitter nowadays. And I don't blame parents. We are stressed. We have jobs to take care of. We have to come feed the family. And before we used to live in these villages, right? Like we had aunts and grandparents, neighbors.
That sounds so nice.
The parents are doing it all, and most of the time, one parent is doing the most of it, and I understand the stress, and I don't blame them.
Right.
Having said that, now we have to pivot to a different way of parenting because it's the new digital era. It's going to be in our homes. Meaning, first you become aware of how much time you are spending. We as parents are spending on our, on our phones.
Like, what are we modeling?
What are we modeling? And second, I've noticed this, parents, when we ask our children to get off the phone, we expect them to, or the game, to expect them to just get off it. We want to expect them to just drop it and, get off it, which is hard for the child itself. When we are so engrossed in something, it's hard to snap out of it. But this one technique I give parents is, first you decide how much time you want to give your child. And if they're at the end of it, like, you're trying to finish the game, maybe it's 5-10 minutes. Let them have that. Go stand next to them. Don't scream from another room. Walk up to your child and ask them to finish up in a very gentle way. And if they say, 5 minutes, I'm going to wrap up the game, it's okay. You still you can have the boundary, but tell them to wait while they wrap up. 5-10 minutes most, rather than expecting them to just drop the game. And have those game nights. Connect with your child. Go for those walks, because everybody craves that connection. And if you give them that connection, they're not going to look for that connection at any other place.
Yeah. So really like build either the moments with them or set these boundaries, but give them space.
Yes.
Right. To either like do what they're doing, but complete it in a way that feels right for them, or create new opportunities of connection. Is that fair?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think another thing on this is in our culture, right? Obedience sometimes is what we equate to respect, right? It's like if my kid listens to me and does everything I want them to do or say, they respect me. And if they don't,
yes,
game over. Like they don't respect me. And so I wonder like how would you reframe this type of narrative on obedience? And I guess it's similar to the ego, fear, control. But yeah, how would you reframe it?
Yeah, this is a great question. Parents, most of us usually confuse respect to protocol. What is protocol? A certain ways of being, right? You say good morning, good evening, and you do certain things, you complete a task. These are certain protocols, certain rules we have. We confuse that for respect. What is respect? When I think about you, I feel good about you. I have good thoughts about you. Like I have kindness towards you. I want to be around you. These are some aspects of respect. I adore you. I want to listen to you. Value you. These are some parts of respect. Protocol is doing something, the outwardness of that. So you can not like somebody and still do what they say and be perceived that this person is respecting me. But when you respect, you want to be around them. You want to do what the person tells you to do. And there is a friendship around that relationship.
And I think it's even more like, even when they're not doing what you would want them to do, but it's best for them or it feels right to them. If you respect someone, I would think you encourage.
Yes, and you honor what the other person is feeling. You respect what they're coming from. All that comes with that when you respect another person versus when you're just following this, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to listen to everything. I can hate that person and still do everything
do everything they say. Okay. So in that same vein, what would you say to some parent that was like, well, if I just like do it this way, then I'll lose my authority or I'll lose my power, right? Like, because there's a sense of like, as kids are growing up, right? Like the developmental ages of just till 25, let's say, all the way till their brain is fully developed. There is a sense of like, they're at a place where their brain isn't fully developed. So a lot of the abstract thinking or complex thinking, a parent does hold that power naturally because they're more developed. Maybe not aware, but let's just say they're more developed. But the point being that what if a parent is afraid that they'll lose their authority? Does that make sense? Like they'll lose their place in that dynamic.
Authority, again, when we use that word, it's coming with so much ego. What I say
so
goes. True. You have to listen to me, and I'm the parent. I brought you into this world. It comes with so much ego. Anytime we are making it about ourselves, it comes from the ego. Anytime we are focusing on the child, what the child needs, it doesn't mean we give in to everything the child is asking, but sometimes they need that strong boundary, and that can come from kindness. Like a child is sick, you're not going to hand them out a candy. You're going to be in your power and say, no child, this is for your best interest, and that comes from kindness. You don't have to be authoritative, but you can have that boundary. No, this is for your best interest, and I love you so much. I don't want you to fall sick. I want you to become healthy. The sooner you get healthy, the sooner you're going to go out and have fun in life. Coming from that place versus the child cannot understand that. They're just going to see how we are behaving, the energy you're bringing to them. It's very difficult. And Gabor Mate usually says that it's very hard for a child to think my parent loves me and they want the best for me, and whatever they're doing, the yelling and screaming is for my good.
Benefit.
No, child. It's impossible for a
they
child.
They don't have the skills to really make sense of all that.
They end up thinking something is wrong with me.
Absolutely.
That is where we need to step in and make sure we're giving the right narrative and making sure the child they feel heard and seen.
Yeah. It reminds me of a book I read around parenting once where it was talking about the more you can explain to a child with your words, and like even if it feels like too much, if you assume the child doesn't understand and you just say no, you're losing out on so much, right? But if you take the time to explain what just happened, why it happened, what feelings came up for you, why this is important, why maybe spending time on this device isn't good for you, or it is, like, whatever it is, the narrative and the words gives them the ability to make sense of what is happening and why. So they don't, what you're saying is like, eventually misunderstand it and interpret it, which kids do by no fault of their own, that if something is happening that's bad, it's my fault, versus like, no, this is because of XYZ, or this is the right way.
And we have such trouble pausing and explaining.
We really do. And I think it's because they're so stressed. Like, parents are so stressed. And I mean, it just depends on how, like, what age the kid is and where they're at. But I've seen, like, sometimes when the parents have this much energy left in a day, it's like you snap, versus if you have the luxury of time, I guess, or maybe like patience. And I'm sure resources and your socioeconomic status might have a lot to do with it. but just like your means to pause too.
Yes. And learning certain tools, like, for example, just the word anxiety, let's take that.
Sure.
I didn't know this term until I was in my 20s, and I was the most anxious person.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know there's a term and you're not alone in it, and it's normal, and what to do with it, and you know the workings of it. That's so liberating. It's the same thing when it comes to parenting, learning few terminologies, boundaries. I didn't know the word boundary for the longest time. Once you understand it, now you know, okay, here I need to put a boundary here. This boundary is not needed. I need to put a boundary, but I can put a boundary. Yeah. Even that is so liberating.
So liberating. Yeah, when you have the language, the literacy around it. I guess in your experience, has there been one or two examples of things that are the hardest for parents to get through and overcome in this journey of yelling to zenning? Like, you know, what's been like the most challenging aspect that you've seen?
Watching their child go through something and not be able to fix it for them is the hardest part for a parent.
It makes me so emotional for some reason. It's that they don't want them to feel the pain.
They don't want them to feel the pain because
it causes them pain.
Then that comes from enmeshment, and again, it's coming from such
good
heart and wanting the best for your child. But courage would look like, I know you're in pain, I understand, but I'm here for you. When you go through this, I'm going to be by you. That's courage and kindness and love and parenting. And I'm not saying we can do this all the time, 100% perfect.
Sure.
But even in certain moments when we can offer that to a child, it's very powerful.
Yeah, and it takes a level of trust in the child and their ability.
Yes.
And I think also a level of faith in the universe or the world, right? Like, but he also talks a lot about the importance of allowing children to experience pain, right? Because it's not about a life free of pain. It's about how can we navigate and tolerate and come back from and learn from pain or any type of struggle or discomfort. Whereas what you're talking about is like, parents might tend to be like, let me save you from any of these bad feelings, because then it's going to hurt, and it hurt me, and I can't handle that.
And in the process, we block them from living itself. Don't this, you might fall, you might do this. Then we are not living, right? They're part of living. Everything is part of living. And we try to...
Taking risk of any kind.
Failing, heartbreaks, it's a part of life. We have read this, you know this as a therapist. You cannot block one aspect of emotion and hope to have the other parts. No, when you're blocking yourself from pain, you're blocking yourself from joy too. So we want our children to experience all of life. Yeah. And as parents, we are going to be by them, right? We're going to stand by them. That's what they want. And that's what we want as human beings.
Can you speak more to how not feeling pain can block you from joy? I have like a way of I have a way of interpreting that, but I'd love to hear how you would describe it.
Yeah, we carry this ego, and you know about this, right? When in childhood something happens to us, which is very painful, we create these defense systems, which we call ego. And this, we walk around with this defense system. What's a defense system? Protective way of being. And this is all around us. It's like the chicken, which has the shell around it, and it keeps growing, but the shell is not breaking. It's going to suffocate. And the shell is what we carry around. And this is not only, we think it's going to block us from pain. It's not going to allow joy either, because you need to be vulnerable to feel the joy. And we block ourselves from all the emotions because we're so scared of allowing pain. And it's like a door. You're not going to allow, if you're going to close the door for bad people, you're going to allow for, close the door for all everybody.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're closing access to the deeper parts of you.
Yes.
Right? So then nothing can really touch that, even if it's the good stuff. I think that's so important. Okay, this one I think is important too before we end our episode is this idea of like generational patterns. So if parents do something a certain way, as kids, we don't want to repeat that, or parents themselves don't want to repeat what happened to them. Sometimes like that's easy intellectually and cognitively to understand, right? Like if I was raised a certain way and there are parts of it I didn't like, I don't want that experience. What can I do better? What can I do differently? But sometimes what I've noticed is people find themselves just automatically reacting in a way that replicated what happened to them. And I think that's one extreme of that. And then sometimes it's what you were saying earlier. I don't want any of that to happen. That happened to me. So we're going to be completely opposite, which is a different extreme. But in this case, like when you see someone repeating a pattern because it's built in and wired to their system, I guess, but they don't want to. That's what they're afraid of, but it's happening. Could you speak to that and kind of like how that shows up?
Yeah, but the universe is really a kind universe. It'll show up in ways that you don't want it. It's going to show up. Maybe you're having a conflict with your spouse or your child. You need to inspect that. Am I bringing my old patterns of, like, let's say, a child is lying. You think, or at least you are thinking your child is lying when your child is not, because you have lied about certain things at some point. We are going to project that onto our child, and we are not going to accept what the child is saying in all its entirety, because we are coming from that pattern. We think, oh, this is how it was. Or even girls, especially, we think girls have to be a certain way. They have to sit a certain way, they should talk a certain way, dress a certain way, because we learned it, and we unconsciously, we might think, I'm very progressive, I'm going to let my child do everything. But very subtle, it might show up, when you're stressed, or it might show up as to when we are not aligned. It can show up, oh, you need to speak softly, or maybe you need to respect that person, or go hug your grandparent, things like those. These are very subtle. We need to pay attention to where the conflict, where you're not, let me choose the right word, where you're not feeling aligned, where you feel something is off, when you feel something is disturbed. I would say pause and look at those.
Yeah. And I guess, as we're coming to the end, how would you encourage or teach the skill of pausing? The skill of really taking that break, because it sounds like that there's so much in the pause. The pause is where you could regulate back, get your thinking brain a bit more online, show up a different way. We do a lot of that in therapy with mindfulness and things like that. So yeah, I'm curious, like, how do you kind of coach through the pause, learning the pause?
It's practice, like any other skill, any other way of being. It's a practice, because we haven't been taught this, and we don't know how to. We start small with a 5-minute pause every day. Really enjoying your cup of coffee, the cup, smelling the coffee. You can start there, and then if you're up for it, you can go all the way and do learn meditation. The form of meditation I do is Vipassana.
Oh, you do Vipassana? Yeah, okay.
And I love that. It's changed every aspect of my life. And if you're a warrior, I would really recommend people to go give it a shot. And it's not about meditating on the mat. It's about bringing those aspects into your real life.
Translating that into actually in the moment. How do you apply? I love this. Thank you so much. Do you have anything that we didn't cover that you'd love to get across? And also, where can parents find you if they are looking for a coach?
They can find me on all the social media platforms. It's Sapna Rad Coaching.
Sapna Rad Coaching. Rad stands for the Radhakrishnan.
And Sapna Rad is my website.
That's how they find you?
They can find me.
And is there anything else we didn't cover that you feel like is something you want to send a message to?
Such an important and a vast subject.
So vast,
Because you know this as a therapist, right? Parents or any person starts talking about their pain or dysfunction or something that they want, inevitably, somehow it goes back to their childhood.
Gosh, that's the highlight of every episode.
Everything. When I was a child, this happened, that happened. So this small period of our life is so important. And if parents just took the time, most parents would do this for their children. They might not do it for themselves. And children come to this world with this invitation for the parent to change, for the invitation to learn connection, to become aware. If you take up this invitation, it's going to change every aspect of your life.
I love that. I think it is so, so important. And I appreciate all the work you do around it. I think we need more of this and more awareness around it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sapna. I appreciate it.